So, you've been learning Spanish for a while, but every time you go to speak, you forget everything you've learned. Your accent goes out the window, you forget all of the tenses that you've been practicing, and it's frustrating, right? You're like, I knew that word, or I knew that conjugation. Why did I say that? Why did I forget that? This is a very frustrating problem that I used to have when I was learning Spanish. And there's one main thing you can do in order to fix this. All you need to do is speak more. Now, I know this isn't exciting or fun or sexy advice, but hear me out. The number one way to become good at speaking Spanish is simply to speak more. I always tell my students about the gym analogy. Okay, so let's think about this. If you go to the gym and you only work out your legs, then why would you expect your arms to get bigger? It's just not going to happen. It's the same thing with speaking Spanish. The reason you are forgetting all these different words, all these different conjugations, how to form sentences, is simply because you are not speaking enough. I mean, seriously, think about how often you speak Spanish. If you are struggling to memorize and remember things when speaking, the reason is simply because you are not speaking enough. Now, when I first started learning Spanish, this is exactly what would happen to me. I would go to speak with people, I would forget things, my accent would be bad, and I would feel discouraged. And then I almost wouldn't want to speak with people. Here's the thing. The biggest problem I see my students face is a lack of confidence. So it's not that people don't understand how to use the preterite versus the imperfect or the object pronouns. Most times, students actually just struggle with emotional problems. They struggle with that confidence, the ability to go up to a native Spanish speaker and have a confident conversation with them. Now, the way that you are going to build that confidence, the way that you're going to remember things when speaking Spanish is simply to speak more Spanish. Now, this might not be the advice that you want to hear. Most of us want to find that secret method or that special sauce. But the reality is, if you want to get better at speaking Spanish, you just need to speak more. I tell my students all the time. I have a few students who come from Latino families, and they really struggle to have conversations with other people simply because there's a lot of anxiety attached to the reality that they come from Latino families, but they can't speak Spanish. So there's a lot of shame and embarrassment involved. However, the students who see the most success when learning Spanish are simply the ones who have the confidence and the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to make mistakes. I might look silly, but I can do this. And I'm going to go and I'm going to speak with people and I'm going to mess up and they're going to correct me. Maybe we're going to laugh a little bit, but I am going to learn. So if you are forgetting things while you're having conversations in Spanish, this most times simply has to do with your level of confidence. And I would argue that it's not necessarily that you don't have a good enough level in Spanish. That's not necessarily the case. It's very well that you actually have a pretty good level of Spanish. You can speak in the present tense and you can speak more or less in the past tense and talk about things in the future. But you might think, well, I'm just not ready. I don't know enough vocabulary. I'm not good enough. Well, that's a big mistake. If you really want to get good at Spanish, then you need to speak, okay? Remember, why do we even learn Spanish in the first place? To connect with other people. If you are hiding behind your Spanish app or book or course or whatever, then you're never going to make real progress with your Spanish. So you have to speak. If you have no one to speak with, no worries. You can go online. There are plenty of free resources like Lengua. It's a great resource with AI and human teachers, a platform like italki, which I really enjoy. There's free platforms like HelloTalk and Tandem. There's also my Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy, shameless self-promotion there. Check it out by clicking the link in the video description. And if you are fortunate enough to have native Spanish speakers in your life, so friends or family, take advantage of that. Many of my students have romantic Spanish partners. Use them. Okay? Not in a bad way or a maniacal way, but have them help you, okay? If you know native Spanish speakers in your inner circle, then tell them, hey, I know you might think it's a little weird or awkward or funny when I speak Spanish with you, but please, I am trying to learn. I want to get better. Please speak with me, at least for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. This is what I used to do when I first started learning Spanish. I was in high school. I was 14 years old. I took my first Spanish class and I thought, gosh, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of cool. My good friend Luis speaks Spanish. I'm going to go try to speak Spanish with him. So I said, buenos dias in my horrible accent to him. And he said, yeah, that means good morning. Good job. I said, great. Okay. Would you mind speaking Spanish with me? And at first, I'm not going to lie, it was a little uncomfortable for him. He wasn't sure how to feel. He's like, man, I speak English. Why do you want to speak Spanish with me? I'm like, I know, Luis, but listen, man, I really want to get better at this. I think this is actually pretty cool. Please speak with me in Spanish. Now, me maybe being the kind of person that I am, I was kind of shameless. And I basically said, look, man, I know it's weird for you. I know it's uncomfortable, but you got to get used to it because I'm going to speak to you in Spanish, whether you like it or not. And I'm going to practice with you. And I would seriously speak to him every day at lunch while I was in high school. I would call him after school. I started speaking with his family. I started speaking with my other Spanish-speaking friends. And I kind of tried to get rid of that ego. I tried to have lots of humility and say, okay, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm not going to understand things. I'm going to say things incorrectly. But you learn by making mistakes. Another little pro tip that can help you more easily remember things when speaking Spanish is to try and teach other people. Even though you might not be an expert, when you teach something, it helps you master the thing that you are teaching. When I first started teaching Spanish, wow, my Spanish really started to improve simply because I was teaching people. I would say, okay, today we're going to learn about object pronouns. The student would ask me a question and then I would say, gosh, that's a good question. I don't know. Let me look that up. And then I would improve my own Spanish. Anyways, all that to say, si quieres mejorar tu español, si se te olvidan las cosas cuando estás hablando con la gente, si dices, ay, ¿cómo se dice esto? Ay, se me olvidó esta conjugación. Lo que tienes que hacer es hablar el idioma mucho más. Si tú haces una sola cosa para mejorar tu español, debería de ser que hables mucho más. Bueno, muchas gracias por ver este video. Espero que te haya ayudado. If you want to learn more Spanish with me, click the link in the video description to check out my Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy. I hope this video has helped you. If you have questions, comments, concerns, if you feel like I left something out, please leave a comment on this video. So remember, if you want to remember things when speaking Spanish with people, if you want to remember how to have the good accent or how to use a certain kind of verb conjugation, you simply need to speak more. I know it's not exciting advice, but I promise you, if you just increase the amount of Spanish that you are speaking, you will be amazed at how much better you will get. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.